Hello friends, and welcome to the first part of Hello React. And in this series, we are going to learn about both front-end and back-end. But first, we are going to focus on the front-end, and which is using React. So let's start. So there are some prerequisites before you start learning React. You need to have basic understanding of HTML and CSS. You need to have basic understanding of JavaScript and ES6 and their features. You also need to have Node.js installed on your operating system. So before we start writing code in React, we first have to understand what exactly is React. React is an open-sourced JavaScript UI library created by Facebook, over 100,000 stars on GitHub. And React is not a framework, it is a library. And if you want to know the differences between them, I will put the link in the description below so you can check it out. React is generally used to create UI frameworks for the front-end part. One of the essential features of React is the ability to quickly and efficiently develop user interfaces using components. Components are basically a customized HTML element, which looks something like this. You can have hundreds of components in a web application, which then combined to form a complete working web application. And React streamlines the data flow throughout your application by using something called states and props or properties. Now let's have a look how we can install and set up our development environment for our React application. So the first thing you want to do is go to nodejs.org and download the current version of Node.js for your operating system. Now let's see how we can set up our first React project. If you are Windows, you can use CMD or command prompt, and if you are on Mac or Linux, you can use terminal. Let's first open up our terminal and type in node-v. This way you can verify if it's Node installed on your PC or not. Next, you want to type in cd desktop. Then we are going to create a directory called workspace, mkdir workspace. This will create a directory on your desktop. If you are on Windows, you can use md workspace. Then cd to workspace, and here we are going to set up our first React project. There are actually two ways you can set up a React project. The first one is using static HTML, which includes CDN for React and Babel. And the second way is the CRA, which is from Facebook, and it is the popular one. First one I mentioned before was not the popular one. So we are going to get CRA. For that, you're going to need is to type in npx create React app, then the project name or your React app name. Let's call it Hello React. And if you hit enter, it will create a React project for you, but it will take some time, so I'll be back. As you can see, the installation was finished. Now let's see how we can start our development server. For that, you're going to need is to change the current directory to your project one, which is Hello React. You can do that by typing cd hello react and then yarn start. Or if you don't have yarn, you can install it by using the following command. I use yarn because it's more fast, more reliable and efficient. So I'm gonna go with yarn. You can use npm if you want. It's not big of a difference. So npm start or yarn start, both are same. If you hit enter, a new window in a browser will pop up. Something like this. It says edit src app.js to save and reload. Now let's open our project folder inside VS Code. If you don't have VS Code installed on your PC, I would highly recommend to install it on your PC. You can download it from the link I will put in the description below. Check it out. Let's open our VS Code and then go to File and Open. Then we are going to go to Desktop and then Workspace, and then we'll choose Hello React and click on Open. It will open up our React project, and as you can see, we have three folders here. Node modules, which contains all the modules required to run our project. Second one is public, and inside this folder we have index.html, which is the most important file for our React to work. And it contains something called ID, an element with ID root. This is where all our app is going to be rendered. So this project is very important to us. You can also change the title of our React app to whatever you want. And also it contains some logos and robots.txt for the crawlers, and manifest.json for You can say for the quick apps you have on Android or iOS. We are not going to look into these things. So what we need is src. And in src folder, we have all the source code for our application. If you check index.js, this is where the React renders our app. And here you can see that the React DOM render the app component inside the root element, which we saw earlier in the index file. Let me show you quickly how we create components in React app. If we go to app.js, in here we can see that it contains some div elements. So we can just remove it and type in. There are actually two ways to create a component in React. The first one is using class-based and second one is using functional component. Class components are basically older now, so we are not going to use class components. We are going to with functional components, which are much easier and more reliable, you can say that. Alright, for that you are going to need is to create a function. Let's say function hello world. This is a function, so it's going to return something. Return, let's say h1 hello world. This is a component, and there we go. We just created a component in our application. And now let's see how we can render our component. As you can see, this file exports app as a default, so we are going to render this component inside in here. Or you can just type in like this, hello world. And if you hit save, we can see that it says hello world. Let's change it to hello React. And if you hit save, it will automatically be updated because it's running a live development server on your PC on port 3000. We are not going into details with that. We are just getting stick with the code, so don't worry about that. Let me explain. So you look something like this. This is called JSX or JavaScript XML, which is the combination of JavaScript and HTML. Let's see how we can include JavaScript inside this JSX format. If we go, we can include JavaScript inside this using braces. If you type in new date .toString, and if you hit save, if you go here, you can see all the date. I mean, it's JavaScript. Most React application loads up all the components into one main app component. What it basically means that this app.js will contain all our website component, and all will be rendered inside this app. Let's say you have multiple components like this, and we can render all of them in app.js. Let's say, but first, just for your information, if you have multiple components inside your app, you need to wrap up all of them inside one parent component. You can create a div or empty tag. Let me show you. This is an empty tag. It must be closing. It must close. Type in here hello world. Let's say hello world, hello React 1. Change the function name to 1. And then this one 2. This one 3. Let's remove this 2. And hello React 2. Hello React 3. And if you want to render all of these components, you have to wrap them into a main parent component, which is empty tag, or you can use div or whatever you want. And if you hit save, you can see something like this. Now let's try to create a component called header. For that, we are going to create a folder inside src named components. And in here, we are going to create another file named header.js. Make sure to put the first letter of your component in capital or uppercase. Now let's create a function called header, and this will return an h1 tag called header. Next, what we are going to do is export it. Export default. You can export in two ways. First one is using default, and second one is using like this. What I would prefer is using the default one. The another method is useful if you want to export multiple components separately from one file. And if we go to app.js, we can import header like this. Import header from /components/header. And if you want to render the header, we can just type in header like this, and if you hit save, and there we go, it says header. Next, let's create another component called content.js, and we can export like this, export default like this one. This one is the fastest, and if you have a, I would suggest you to install a React snippet extension inside VS Code. It provides you lots of snippets like this one. If you type in IMP, it will automatically type in for you this long syntax. Let's create a content folder. Function content. It's gonna return div and lorem sim, let's say. And if we are going to render this inside our app, we can render like this, content slash. It says it's not defined because we forgot to import the content from /component/content. If we save, we can see something like this. Oh, attempted error does not contain a default export. We forgot to export it. Export default content. And if you hit save, you will see something like this. But let's create another component called footer.js. Function footer return, let's say div footer, and let's export it using export default footer. And if we go to app.js, we can render footer like this. As you can see, it auto imported the components because it's a feature of VS Code. Now if we see the content, we can see something like this. I mean, if we see the output inside the browser, we can see something like this. Now let me show you how you can apply CSS to a component. If we go to header, and let's say we want to apply some stylings to our h1 tag. In React, we are not going to type class. We have class name instead of class. In here, we're going to type header. Let's go to app.js. As we can see that it needs import app.css. Let's open app.css. And there are some default codes. Let's remove them all and add .header because we added a header class to our h1. Let's go to .header, then font size to, let's say, 2 em, and if we hit save, let's change it to 4, and there we go, it increases. Let's text align center, and there we go. Let's create a background color of gray, and there we go, header. And let's go to our app.js content. Let's add some class name called content, and same for the footer. Class name footer. And if we go to app.css, let's add content and another one, footer. In content, we are going to type, let's say, family. Let's go with this one, and there we go. And let's add some margin. Let's say 2 em. Alright, let's add some more content in content.js. I'm gonna use a plugin for extension in VS Code, lorem sim, inside the parallel. And there we go. Oh, it looks odd. Let's change the color of our heading to white. It will look better like this. Alright. And for the footer part, we are going to text align to center. And what else we can do here? Alright, I'm not good with CSS. Let's leave it like that. And there we go. We just created 3 components and add them and combine them all inside our app component, which is you can say main component, which will contain all our website's component. like this. We imported header, content, and footer and rendered in our app component, which are getting exported by default. And in index.js, we are importing app.css, app.js, and we are rendering complete app component inside our root element, which is in public index.html, and there we go. And that's it for this part 1. Let me know in the comment section what you think of this video. And if you have any suggestions for the part 2, let me know in the comment section. And if you have any queries, let me know also in the comment section. And thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe. And until then, take care. Bye.
If I were to the sea, baby, I never say, for I would fall into the